All right, so welcome to the Strategy Task Force session number 4. This is December 8th, 2024. I am Louise Campbell Anthony, the affiliate director here with the Peacekeeping Task Force. And we have our assistant director here as well. Kathy Pritler is here. And we have a newcomer here, Barry. We want to welcome Barry to the Strategy Task Force on Texas. I'll add your name here to our list here, Barry. That you'll see there the list of different people who have raised their hands to be part of the Strategy Task Force. And there are those who have raised their hands to be in an advisory capacity as well on the Strategy Task Force. And then that's our primary focus here. As I was explaining here before we got started, we want to strategize how to bring forth the directives that our fiduciary has made of our federal employees, their state franchises, the government corporations and their agencies, as well as the banks. We will formalize a plan of action to get full cooperation and/or capitulation to transfer the governance of each state back into the hands of the state assemblies and into the hands of the county assemblies. The primary objective with the strategies that we're coming up with, we started out wanting to focus on the county that has the state capitals located in them so that we can secure the capitals. And that's part of the phase 3 part of it is called secure the capitals. And that particular capital that has the governor's office in it, because we want to start as far up as possible. And we added more to the strategies since the first task force meeting, where we're going above the governor to the U.S. Secretary of State, and then above the U.S. Secretary of State to Trump and the U.S. military was added along the way. So what we're going to review today is the one fell swoop list of remedies that I put together. What I want us to do is look at those. Look at the list. I sent it out in the interim report to everybody for you all to look those over and for us to go over them and see if they align with what my objective was with using them, and then reword them to make them more of a directive of how we want it to roll out. But to set the stage for those one fell swoop list of remedies, I want to go over a review a little bit of phases 1A and phases 1 and 2. Now, when the strategy started, this is the transference of government overview that we went over two sessions ago. And the phase 1 and 2 is the original. Can everybody see my screen? Transference of government phase 3. Over here on the left, international public notice phases 1 and 2. That is all right, great. This is the original first phase to the project when I developed it. And this is where the state assemblies send out the international public notice via a postcard or an email campaign or door-to-door. That's the phase 1. And then phase 2 follow-up to that is that particular state assembly will schedule a meeting, a town hall meeting in that particular county where they sent out the international public notice. And the county would be the county that has the state capital in it. Because some assemblies were not ready to do that type of campaign, I came up with a second campaign, and this is phase 1A. I put over here to the right. And this particular campaign, all assemblies can do at whatever county they want to do it in, or wherever they want to do it in. Phase 1A, can you go ahead with your question?
Sorry. So I thought I heard someone say they can see the screen, so I didn't say anything because my screen, sometimes I don't see. But Lavelle just put in the chat, she doesn't see anything either, so I'm not pretty.
Uh-oh.
So if you look at the very top left of the Zoom, what I found is there's something that says show my screen and then Zoom. You can like toggle back and forth.
Top left. I see recording on the top left.
Okay, recording's on my top right, so maybe it's on your right. Do you see something that
Oh,
says viewing
Okay.
your screen and not viewing? It's something that you can go back and forth.
Okay, let's see. Follow host video order. Full screen?
No, not full screen.
No. Okay, let's go back. Hide, show meeting, exit full screen.
So it's not in a menu. It's like in the border of your Zoom. Are you looking, do you see your face?
Yes, at the top,
Okay.
I see a row of faces.
Okay, so let me see, because I have a different view. So above that row of faces, do you see a border? And does it say like show my screen or share my screen or something like that? Above the face, like within the border. Okay, but also sometimes it's at the bottom. So maybe look at the bottom. Mine's it's
Share my screen. Let me do this again. Share my screen. Is this any better?
Now it is. Okay, so now let me, yeah. Now I can see it. Lavelle, can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Great. Everybody can see now. Sorry about that.
Oh my God.
Okay. So I'm just going to review phase. Let me go over again. Phase 1 and 2 over here to the left in the yellow. The international public notice is phase 1, and the phase 2 is the public meetings. That's phase 1 and 2. Any of those assemblies who want to start off with that international public notice using the postcard or using email campaign or using door-to-door campaign with the postcards, those are the assemblies that will do this one. The assemblies that don't have the funds or wherewithal to, or decide they didn't want to do this particular one, they can just start with phase 1A. And phase 1A is where state assemblies can just start in the community, whichever community they want to start in. And what they start with doing is start to hold their public meetings. The public meetings that they hold in phase 1A, is the same public meeting that they hold in phase 2. The only difference, I shouldn't say the only difference, but the one difference between phase 1A and phase 1 and 2 is that phase 1A does not start off with a postcard campaign or an email campaign. Those campaigns will cost money. Some assemblies don't have the money to invest in that. So that part is not involved at phase 1A. So all assemblies who can schedule a meeting down at the library or wherever in the park, wherever they want to schedule a meeting, can do phase 1A. In whatever community they decide they want to start in. This phase 1A is a public meeting. This phase 1A is the same public meeting that's in phase 2. So the only difference is they won't start off with that campaign first. So and some assemblies said they don't have that money to do that. So this, I thought, is a good way for them to get started. Now, this public meeting, in this public meeting, these are the things that will be covered in the public meeting. Now, this is in a flyer that you might put out for your public meeting. It will have these discussion points on the flyer, and these are the discussion points that I outlined to give the assemblies an outline of what they could discuss in these public meetings. One of the main things at the public meetings, you want to tell them right here in the middle: international public notice of the crimes perpetrated by the U.S. government upon the American government and the people. So you want to tell the people about that. You might want, and they might want to refer back to the video that's going to be on claimyourinheritance.info, that main video that tells the story. They may want to use that to tell the story here. The primary thing they want to do at these public meetings is introduce the American government, introduce their state assembly, talk about what it means to be an American state national, political status, how to correct your political status, the role of the justice of the peace and the role of the county sheriff. Those, and I wanted to highlight those two roles because those two roles is critical in us enforcing the American common law on our land and soil. That's why those two were chosen. So at these public meetings, that's the kind of layout of how the state assembly can run their meeting. Also at this public meeting is where, and this is in your chat, you can go over it, but in the second part here, I said, present our one fell swoop list of remedies that the public should have had anyway. So that's where this list of remedies come in at. They're going to present them at the public meeting. Now, we talked about the list of remedies, applying the public pressure back here on our overview. So here in 1A, these list of remedies we're going to present to the public and let them know that they should have had them anyway. And last meeting, we went over the criminal information, notice liability, and the declaration of land law for the birth registrations and for the Federal Reserve notes. That also is accompanying this list of remedies. And we want the public to be armed and be informed with these pieces of information in hand before they leave these public meetings and with direction on what to do with them. And that's where the public pressure come in at. After we let them know, these are the remedies that you're supposed to have. Here is the criminal information notice of liability that the elected officials of the territorial subcontractors was supposed to, this is how they're supposed, this is what they're supposed to be doing and not doing, but they're not doing. That type of thing is what the criminal information notice of liability that we talked about in last meeting, and the declaration of land law. Now with that, with those documents, we want to encourage the public to put an affidavit with those documents and send it to their congressmen, send it to their senators, send it to their county sheriffs, their elected officials, and let them know, hey, I have been harmed by the birth registration, or I have been harmed by stealing of my credit because I have a Federal Reserve notes. We'll have to kind of outline how we should actually present that to the public and how we would direct them to use it. So we have to iron that out more. But for now, what I want to do in this meeting is give you that backdrop and go over this list of remedies and get your input on if we need to add some, if we need to take them away, how we can best use them. I explained to you how I think we can best, what my mindset was when I came up with them, how I want to use them. But I'm opening up the floor to you all now. So let me find the list here. I want to find the list that I sent you all, not that one. Let me find the one that I sent you all.
Is the list in the chat or no?
I don't think I put it in the chat, actually. That's not the one I want. Let me go back. See if it's this one. Nope, that's not the one I wanted either. It is the same list that I was looking at, but declaration of land law. I'm going to open this up too while I'm here. Y'all remember this from last meeting. This is the declaration of land law and Federal Reserve notes that I was talking about, that we want to put in hand to those people at the public meetings. We want to put these in their hands as well. And these will have to go over as well to get it more finalized. And Anna will have to be able to, will have to go over those too. All right, so let me go and find, so those two I wanted to show, and then the criminal information is this one here. This will have to go over and fine tune it too. Remember this, I wanted the criminal information notice of liability to look like a class action suit is how it's laid out. So that everybody, territorials and American state nationals alike will feel the same, feel like they're in the same position, which we all are. We've all been harmed the same way. So I want us all to pull us all to get into like a class action feel to this as we deliver it to the public. All right. I'm sorry. How did I not have this one open? Might have to go with the one that I already got open here. I don't see it. So let's go with this one. All right. So I don't want to go over each one of these one by one necessarily, but look at how I worded this. Every application for government services will be a prepaid zero-sum payment transaction for them to receive that service. Why? Because we have already paid for these services via the trust funds. Now, the trust funds of the donor funds, the St. Germain trust funds, the Avila trust funds, and the other, I think it's 5,000 plus trust funds that were donated to fund government. Now, if you look at the video that's on claimyourinheritance.info, the intro video there will go into some of that. And also, if you look at the detailed research on claimyourinheritance.info, I have a whole section about the trust funds and how government was already paid for since 1941. So, and we all know that the Federal Reserve notes are merely credit. They're representation of the credit that the territorial government is using to fund their services. So it's our credit that actually funds their services as well. So water, sewer, electric bills, and all those types of utilities. And the way I see it is all those services should be a zero-sum transaction because it's already paid for. How do we get the subcontractors to implement that? Bank loans. Every application for a bank loan or any loan, whether it's for cars, for houses, for school loans, zero-sum transactions again. As the way I understand how the fiduciary explained how this money thing work, the blood money thing work, is all of this should be zero-sum transactions because Federal Reserve notes represent they only represent credit, and our credit as to boot. So how do we get the loans, and we might have to do this in more than one step, since this is a bank and this is not actually the subcontractor. This one is the bank. So the banks, all of them. How do we get that rolled out so that anyone who applies for a loan, they will know that this is their credit that's being used to fund this loan, so that they don't have to come out of anything out of their pocket? How do we get that rolled out? How do we say that? Property taxes. We shouldn't have a property title system here in America because the land belongs to us. And Anna has said we don't need a property title system. How do we deal with that one? How do we get the lands taken out of the state trust, the de facto state trust, and put into the state trust of the state assemblies? How do we write that? How do we give them the direction to transfer that property? And I know the states will. Now we are the strategy task force where we're thinking of the ideas. Some of this, most of this, the states will have to enforce or enact. We're doing this from that point of view. Now, some things the PKTF, the PKTF director may do up when we get to the Trump issue and the U.S. military issue. But down here where we're talking about property taxes, you know, that's probably the state or the county assembly that will have to implement or enforce this upon the federal subcontractors that's encroaching on their state or their county. But how do we write that? What would that look like? Getting rid of the title system. Traffic issues. Everybody know we got traffic issues. How do we get rid of those driver's license that we know we're not supposed to have unless we're commercial driving? And I know the state assemblies are trying to do the Regulation Z plates and things like that to enforce this right. But how do we get it recognized in every state? The income tax issue. I feel like anybody who has an income tax issue that's in jail should be released. Number one, it wasn't enacted. The income tax statute wasn't enacted as positive law. It's not law. It's a code. So, and then you can't sue anyone. Anna said you can't sue anyone for stealing an FRN. If you did, or maybe if a corporation owed income taxes, maybe they may have to stay in jail if that's part of a legitimate corporate tax. But any man or woman who's in jail for failure to pay taxes and things like that, I think they need to be released from jail. Mochi, Mutual Offset Credit Exchange, all FRNs are backed by our good faith and credit. So yeah, so Anna has tried some processes here with this one. Acceptance for value, those types of credit exchanges on all of our bills. How do we get this recognized? That's another thing we have to get recognized. County recorder's office. Some of the county recorder's offices are not allowing us to file documents. We should be allowed to file documents. No more birth registrations. How do we get this executed or implemented, enforced at every hospital in the country? Birth registrations is bonded slave, bonded slave papers. They should not exist. This put American in your databases under the category for citizenship. Yeah, they have U.S. citizen every time you fill out an application, every time you go to a doctor's office, every time you go to get government services. They ask you, are you a U.S. citizen? They never ask you, are you American? I think that needs to be added. We will have a population of U.S. citizens. We know that because they're the federal subcontractors. But we have to be able to differentiate and recognize ourselves on any piece of paper in this country. It should say American. And then whatever rights and privileges goes with being an American ought to follow that application. Everybody should know what that means. So of course, some retraining have to go on with this as well. But how do we get them to implement American in their databases? Child Protective Services. I believe we need to address that in our one fell swoop list of remedies, because we should not have a child protective service, period, anyway. Raise our peace flag. That's a part of our phase 3. As we're going out, as the liaisons are going out to offer that warm handshake to the county sheriffs and the governors and things like that. We want to raise the peace flag, and we want to erect a billboard in their courtyards to say political status. How do we implement that at the level of the liaisons? Because that's who will be requesting that. Now, I do think we need to address insurance agencies and the selective service as well. I'm not quite sure how to word those two, but I'd like to add those to this list. We selective service is not what it's supposed to serve as. So we need to address what's going on with the mercenary U.S. military. Now we know that part of there is the American Armed Forces and there is the U.S. military. The U.S. military are the mercenaries, and the American Armed Forces are those honorable soldiery who's protecting our freedoms. So the selective service is for the U.S. military, that all of our young men are required to sign up for, or else there's a penalty. There's some type of, they're going to be in trouble. We need to deal with that one. Now, I did take the time to go through all those. I'm not sure on the one that I sent out to the session three interim report, when I sent that out, if there's any more on there or not, but these should pretty much be the same thing that I sent out last week. So I'm going to open up the floor to you all's input, what you all thought about it as y'all went over it this past week, and how I'm thinking about using it. Don't be shy. Don't everybody speak at once.
Louise, may I?
Yes, Bart.
Hey, so are you asking specifically about this document or your approach as a whole? Tier, part 1, part 2, part 3?
I was asking about this document for right now,
Okay.
but we could get into if you want to talk about how this fits in. Some
Well,
ideas.
I'll start off with the document. I think you talked about how to get enforcement for the various demands that we're making. I think I'll just share what my perspective is at the time with the picture I have, the big picture, and then maybe you can correct me on it, or maybe it'll just be helpful for its own sake. So I think that the notices that we send to the sheriffs are the most important, because the sheriff is the enforcer. I can't enforce. I've delegated that power to the sheriff. So, but then the sheriff needs to get on board. And we've got 77 sheriffs in Oklahoma. So we have a lot of work to do. And that to me looks like outreach. It looks like outreach comes first, and then the sheriffs come next, or we send notices. We focus our notices on sending to the sheriff. But I don't know. My impression so far of the sheriffs is they won't believe anyone unless it's one of their trusted authorities telling them. But they're not going to believe me, just a guy. And oh, you're just one of those sovereign citizens, right? I had my uncle actually ask me that. I was like, I am not a sovereign citizen. So, but the more I get that question, I mean, it used to piss me off, but now the way I look at it is, it's the same question I get from my close friends and my family members who respect me, but they just don't know. And so they're like, oh, are you a sovereign citizen? And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's because it's an oxymoron. You can't be a sovereign and a citizen at the same time. You can't be someone that works for the government, a citizen, and someone who's sovereign, independent, sovereign in his own right. You can't be both at the same time. Even that right there, as accurate as it is, it's a brand new, like, mind-blowing realization for them, which they're not going to accept at face value. They're going to have to think about that. So I'm seeing that there's a lot of processing. My hair cutter, I've given him this information 2 times now, and he only looks at it whenever he has spare time, and then he asks for me again. So I'm seeing that this realization to get somebody on board. I mean, how hard is it to get an American state national on the land? It's kind of tough. If they're not ready for that knowledge yet, they're going to avoid it. Well, how much more so the sheriff? I mean, unless he's awake and he's one of those that's intentionally trying to wake up, then it's going to be faster. But if you don't have the sheriff, you don't have enforcement. And so I view the sheriff as being the teeth. So the catch-22 about this is that we need to reach out. So we've actually included it in our documents, instead of just the 1779 and the the 2 witness testimonies and the non-recorded birth certificate, right? We've actually, of course, we're sticking to those as the basics for just state national correcting your status, but we're adding on the information claim and notice liability. That's the document written by Doug Minnick on San Diego. And we've also added in the sheriff's notice, that declaration of land law. We're also adding in the document that Boyd Adams put together, and we're going to include a link. And so our plan, this is our method of taking advantage of everybody who's already correcting their status, because we're not able to keep track of it all, because there's a lot of people correcting their status. They're not going through their state assembly. They're just interested, they've heard some rumor about prepaid credit, and they just go straight to the global family group and correct their status. And they don't even reach out to the state assembly for 2 reasons. They either don't believe that we're legitimate, which means that they are not thoroughly educated on the subject. They don't understand the connection, right? But the other is that they're just interested in prepaid credit. They don't want to be a part of the government because they don't understand the importance of a civilian run, Republican form of government. They don't understand how central it is. But in the meantime, they're doing that, right? So what we're suggesting, what we're doing is, instead of doing we are doing outreach. It's slow but sure. But in addition to that, we're adding it to our paperwork as recommended, not required, but recommended, so that every time someone, it's like, anytime you hear a bell ring, an angel gets his wings, right? It's like every time someone corrects their status, that sheriff needs to be getting a notice from every single American state national. That's why we're adding it into our paperwork. So, because that everybody that corrected their status, especially with the 928 process, we all followed that process. We all sent a notice to the U.S. Secretary of State and the Attorney General and the Oklahoma Secretary of State. A lot of us did it. We had no idea what we were doing. We wondered, oh, did I do it right? When it's the intention that matters. There is no doing it right or doing it wrong. It doesn't matter what color of ink you put in your autograph. I mean, it does. It's always helpful to be clear, but the intention is the most important thing. And so a lot of us sent off notices to the U.S. Secretary of State and the Attorney General, not really knowing what we were doing at the time. But then we learned about it later. Oh, that's why I did that. That's why I sent that notice to that guy in the other office. And then we start getting used to this. Well, so what we're doing on Oklahoma is we are making sure that even if they do the 1779 and 2 witness testimonies, even if they don't do the 928s, we're still including in the sheriff's notice, declaration of land law, Boyd Adams material, and the information claim and notice liability, which will be sent 3 times to the U.S. Secretary, the Oklahoma Secretary of State in our case. That's our form of belt and suspenders outreach, because we want to overwhelm the sheriffs, because they are the teeth that it's like you have to make a funny metaphor, you have the World War II soldier on the front line, and suddenly, whenever the airplanes and the fighters start flying overhead, or the tank, suddenly they get a burst of courage and they're like, ooh, they start walking the talk, because now they have something behind them. And recently, and the reason I'm bringing it up today is that there's a man, Kevin Robinson. I don't know what state he's on, but he's on the Telegram channel, the American State Assembly's chat. And he asked me, and he had already been direct messaging me a couple of times. And he said, Bart, what are we going to do whenever, is there someone that we can talk to about all this? Because, he's telling me that his wife, he made a post about this, so it's public, but he said his wife is pretty frustrated because she keeps telling him, how are you going to enforce this? They've got the guns and they've got the badges, and they just might arbitrarily throw you in jail just because they don't like you. And he's voicing this on the Telegram group, which I think is a great question, because I think it's at the back of everyone's mind. We want to know that we're not just saying words. I mean, even though as sovereign Americans, our words are very important. And if I say I have a right, it means I have a right because I said so. A right is associated with a responsibility. I've only given you 19, the rest are reserved for myself. So if I expressly tell you what my right is, that's the end of the matter. But if you don't have a sheriff to back you up, those jackboots, in badges, with guns, they don't care. So that's my context whenever I look at, because by the way, I just love this document and all of our demands, and I think all of them should be made. But if we want to give it teeth, somehow we've got to penetrate into the minds of the sheriffs. But it's just tough work because I
Okay.
can't. It's just now that my father is finally writing me stuff here and there. And he asked me, he's like, so Bart, what's this thing about an allodial title? I was like, Dad, I think that's the same thing as a land grant or a land patent. And he was like, well, is it true that if we do that, we're not going to have to pay our taxes? And I had to put the brakes on a little bit because I was really excited about that he was learning this. I said, Dad, listen, yes, it's absolutely unlawful. However, if your society does not believe that, if your local sheriff doesn't believe that, if the judge and the bar attorney and maritime courts doesn't believe that, then it doesn't matter if you have a right. Your right does not exist unless you have a lawful society that enforces it. Because I didn't want my dad to go off and, hot-headed and get in trouble, right? But I think that's what we're working with. We really got to get the sheriffs pronto. That I yield.
Okay. Well, you said quite a few things there, Bart. Before I get to you, Rich, let me hop on with what Bart is saying. Let's bring this into perspective. You mentioned can y'all see me? Because Bart just froze. Oh, okay. All right. You mentioned the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned they're not going to listen unless somebody higher up that they subjected to will tell them what to do. You mentioned the sheriff being our teeth, our enforcers. Okay. So, and all of that is thought about here in this execution plan. So let me try to bring it all together and what I was thinking. And let me show you this one. This one is more, this is the same thing, but more simplified. The teeth, I think, from my perspective, are the people. All the people. That's why I came up with an approach to involve everybody as the people are all the Americans. See, I don't want to think about the Americans as U.S. territorials because they're really not fraud. Everybody is an American. To be a U.S. territorial only means you are a citizen that you agreed to serve as a citizen. This birth certificate registration, that's fraud. So I want to arm the people with the information to let them know that their rights have been taken away from them. How do they get the rights back? And who is it that have taken those rights from them? That's why and my teeth is phase one, where in these public meetings, you bring in everybody to the table, meaning American state nationals are going to be there, quote unquote, U.S. territorial citizens are going to be there, but we're going to tell them, did you sign a contract to serve the U.S. government? Then you're not a U.S. citizen. We're going to tell them that. And why are you not experiencing those 10 Bill of Rights that we know we're supposed to have? We're going to tell them that. And we're going to tell them, put in their hands those documents, the Declaration of Land Law and the Criminal Information Notice. And we want them to bombard Congress. We want everybody to bombard Congress and the senators. And yes, the county sheriffs get these documents too. And the governors. These are the people up here that's going to give those directions down there to the county sheriffs and tell them, we got too much pressure on us up here. We want the pressure to go up there. And then, well, I want the pressure to go up there because the further up the ladder you get, those are the ones that the lower ones will be listening to. So that's why I want to put the pressure on. And that's where I see the teeth at.
I see that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and go to you now, Rich. Can't hear you. Gotcha. I see you.
I just want to say that as far as I kind of agree that you can have somebody who enforce this stuff. But I also agree with Bart where he said that outreach is the key. You have to get more people involved. I mean, we have a small number of people here in Illinois that are actually active in the assembly, maybe 25 or 30 that show up to the meetings all the time and are involved in committees and trying to get stuff going. But I know that we have about 200 or so that are papered up on the state. So we've only got about 10% showing up to actually do the work. But in my opinion, if you outreach more, as you get more people in, you will get more active members. But I do like the idea of having the public meetings like you have here in the 1A, phase 1A. If we could go to, instead of maybe starting in the county of the capital, because a lot of the counties that have a higher population of ASNs already there are in other counties than our capital. They're more up towards Chicago in Illinois. And so, but I think that would be a good place to have a public meeting, because it might get more of the local American state nationals that aren't being active back interested in being involved in the assembly also. But I do agree with the sheriffs. I know in Illinois, we sent out notice to all the county sheriffs when with the declaration of land law and the notice of the sheriffs. We sent that to all of them, and we are putting together a follow-up educational package for them. I know we've had one meeting discussing it already, and I know we have another one scheduled. So because we share the same view. You need an enforcer, and the county sheriffs can they used to have a choice. They could choose whichever way they wanted to enforce the law, and we took that away by declaring land law again. They don't have a choice. They have to follow the land law rules. And so we just want to make sure that everyone's educated, and they can decide. They can either follow the land law rules, or they will have to step out of their office, and then we will have to find someone to fill those positions, which we are having some tasks at filling positions here on Illinois still. But we're always asking for people to volunteer, and yes, I think you do a fantastic job with the presentations and organizing. I yield.
Thank you, Richard. Now, the other thing that both Richard and Bart brought out is outreach. The whole project is outreach, you all. Outreach at different levels. We have outreach at the Trump and the military. We want to outreach to them because we need to get them to the table. We have to figure out who it is that's going to be able to organize that meeting and that get together. But that's outreach. We're talking about outreach at the town meetings. However you want to do it, whether you want to do the international public notice postcard campaign to the county, or you want to do the town meetings, just whatever town you want to start your meetings at. That's outreach. Even in phase 3, I like this one. Even in phase 3, here where you see phase 3, where the liaisons and the militia commander go deliver some information to the Secretary of State, the governor, the attorney general, the county sheriff. Let them know we're the employers. Let them know what the contract says. Let them know the historical document and the situation we're in. That's outreach. And then it goes to another level, outreach. Now, so what I'm showing here is the levels of outreach that's put together in this strategy. Like Bart said, people are at different levels. They're not quite gonna get it, especially the county sheriff, and not gonna just jump on the bandwagon just because we declared land law. But what I'm trying to do here is layer on the levels. So we're penetrating them layer upon layer. We're coming at them from different angles. We got the assemblies doing it at the Capitol and the governor. We want to the U.S. military and Trump. We want to address Congress and the senators at all different angles. We want to layer on the levels of penetration and get into the mindsets of these people. And that's where the pressure is, starting there at the top, and try to get those people to listen, those people at the top, to listen to the everyday person, the everyday American. We want the enforcement to really come from the everyday American, because we are the sovereigns. All of them work for us. So the enforcement has to come from the everyday American, telling those employees, this is what we're supposed to have, and you're not giving it to us. Why are you not? That's where my enforcement comes from in this strategy. And we got more of them than we have American state nationals, if we can get them on our side. And this is a way that I can see getting them on our side. And we're all on the same side in this.
I I agree on that it's all outreach, and I can see how the people are the teeth. I think for me, I've noticed how frustrating it is to try to convince someone till I'm blue in the face, and they've closed their minds. They don't want to know. And so you just sow the seed, and then you move on, and you see if there's somebody else that's gonna take, that's gonna respond differently. So I think part of this for me, and I think it's going to be helpful whenever we're in, by the way, off subject, Louise, how many assemblies do you know that are going to coordinate on this?
So as far as phase 1 and 2, I know about 4.
4? Okay. What are we
Mhm.
doing to reach out to the other, like I'm the ones that I have on the top of my mind are California, Ohio, mine, Oklahoma, and Texas, and Minnesota. Are those in that group?
Nope. Well, Texas is, Oklahoma is.
Okay. What about
Well,
Minnesota? I think
back
Minnesota
up
said they
because,
weren't going to participate in it, but I don't know why.
okay, yeah. I had 2, or Maine did say. So what I count is if a coordinator or their chair told me they was going to participate.
Uh-huh.
That's who I'm counting.
Are
So
you, have you attended in,
Mhm.
well, what I'm asking is it possible for you to attend a coordinator's call, even though you're not a coordinator, but to actually get permission from Terry, I guess, and say, I would like a 15-minute slot to talk about this? Because I'll bet you, I mean, our state assemblies, it appears to me, we have a lot of overlapping areas. Some of us are on Telegram, some of us are not on Telegram, some of us only watch a particular YouTube video, Rumble video, but we're not very well, centralized, which, kind of is the point of a state assembly, but centralized communication patterns do have their benefits. They have their abuses. That's why we're all here. But they have their advantages, and it might be helpful if you could get onto an actual coordinator call, like maybe ask Anna to ask Terry, and then for 15 minutes, then your word could get out to all the coordinators and say, hey, listen, we're doing this. I see that as being very powerful. We need at least 30 assemblies doing this project together. And that means that we need to, everybody's slow, like we're all working, right? We've got stuff to do, and like, oh shoot, I got that PTF meeting, I need to get on there, right? So I think that it's good to get the bug in people's ear early. That's why at our recent volunteers meeting, I took about 5 minutes and I told all of our volunteers, all 7 of us, that I needed all of them to help with the outreach, because this is not a single man project, and it's very important to our assembly. And so I wanted like all of our active volunteers to be involved and to be familiar, because what we're looking at, this document, this is very dense. It's it's informationally dense, and it's efficient, but this is not something that you just hand to somebody in a meeting and say, all right, let's go out and do this next week. This is something that the volunteers need to be aware of it. So my state coordinator, Melissa, she knows about this. And she knows that I've asked all the volunteers to participate in some way, at least just to be familiar with it, so that whenever we move on this, they're like, oh yeah, that's the postcard campaign. Yeah, we're going to do that, right? These kinds of things. But I need to get it early. So so I think the same thing needs to be of state coordinators. There needs to be some effort, like Anna, maybe talk with Anna, and Anna during one of her coordinator training calls can say, hey, by the way, all of you, every single one of you, especially those that are considering training to be a state coordinator, need to reach out to Louise Campbell. That needs to happen. Has that happened yet?
Yes, that needs to happen. I've been in the coordinator training calls myself, and
I've seen you. I watch them
yeah.
all.
So I every now and then I would say, go to the think tank meeting. We're having one. Or the last thing that I said is the PKTF is putting together a announcement, which that's one thing me and Joe is working on, an announcement to announce the pre-launch of the project to the coordinators.
That's great.
Give them the links to go and review everything again. if they haven't already, and download any of the documents from the ICE drive that they can review and get prepared to launch when we're ready. So that's where we are now during our administrative leave. The PKTF is on administrative
That's
leave.
right. That's right.
So we're preparing the announcement to go to the coordinators to let
Okay,
them know. Mhm.
Okay, I'm glad you're already thinking about that, because that satisfies some of the questions in the back of my head. So I had another thing to say, but touching on this last part about putting out the word, in my work life, I work as a project manager, and we're building our company. Hired another company to build a really big pump. It's about the size of a couch. It moves 300 gallons per minute, 2,000 horsepower, if that gives you a size of this machine. And we're going to be putting it out in our fleet of rigs. And it's my job, as I've come to find out, is to kind of to herd cats. It's my job to make sure that the company that's building the machine, that they that they have everything they need to make all those decisions and build it. And then it's my job to make sure that the company that company is building it for, that they still want it. And then, and of course, that company is very busy. My company is very busy. I'm just an employee, but I happen to be a project manager for it. So I'm trying to get this machine, 300 of them over, and they're each like $1 million a piece, right, over into this company. And this is all a new game to me. I'm realizing that I have to satisfy everyone. I've got probably 50 stakeholders, and people that have skin in the game and that could either say yes or no to the project. And so it's my job to make sure that they're all talking. And so what I've learned is that I have to put out a weekly report to say, this is what happened, and these are the challenges that we went through, and these are the decisions that were made. If I don't put out that report, rumors go around. And so you'll have people that maybe they're fine or whatever, but they've got doubts, and maybe they say something negative about the project, and that starts a rumor, and then it goes to someone else, and they call me a week later. Hey, I heard the project was canceled. I'm like, no, it's not canceled. So I write these reports. I'm supposed to write them once every 2 weeks. Sometimes I don't get to it because I'm so busy. But the point is that frequent communication is important. Getting information in people's hands early is important. That's why I joined your call, this strategy meeting, because I'm always trying to get in front of things. That's really kind of my MO about challenges. I want to get in front of something and understand it, so that whenever the time comes and it actually bears fruit and it comes to be the thing that everybody's talking about, it's not a surprise to me. So frequent communication is important. Getting it in people's ears early is important. And then the next part I wanted to move into was that I have been focusing a lot on education. And I have this, I'd like to hear what you think about, Louise, but I have this expectation that people only do something, they only take action whenever they feel comfortable to take action, and they're not taking a risk, and when they thoroughly understand something. Maybe that's just me, but I've noticed this with education. On the Telegram groups, we're reaching out to people, we're talking, and everybody has this deer in the headlights look to them in their comments for probably a year. It takes people forever because they don't have the time, or they're not interested in reading. Like me, I've read most of Anna's books, and that's why I haven't had a social life in the last 3 years, because I read all that stuff, and I'm still making my way through Brent Allen Winter's Excellence of the Common Law. It's just a treasure trove of information. But I'm finding that I'm kind of an exception. There's a lot of people that do not want to read these books, and so then you're always having. It's like I'm having a never-ending introductory conversation, because people are. It's kind of like David and Goliath, and you had the Israelite. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that story, but the Israelites are shaking in their boots because the Philistines have just presented this giant of a man. But then David was the only one. David, the only one, was like, who is this uncircumcised? And he's the guy of faith in that story. But the entire army is afraid. And even though there's a whole bunch of them, not one of them is going to step forward. What they're looking for, like my previous analogy, they're looking for that tank or that Corsair, airplane in the sky to give them confidence that they can move forward. And I've noticed that is probably the weakest link in our assemblies, is that people come onto the land, and in the beginning they think, oh, I'm just going to get my prepaid credit, and I trust that the federal government is going to respect my political status because they're an efficient and honorable organization. And that's just not true. And then they come on the land and figure out, oh, I've got all these problems. And you're telling me I got to do all this all myself? That's not what I signed up for. And even though that's frustrating, I think that's a very accurate picture of the kind of people that we're working with in our ranks. And so I'm learning that I need to speak their language. I have enough courage to stand on the front line and I want to start. But if I go off half cocked and I try to, no, you're my employee and you got to do this. And if I don't do it right, I could land in jail. And then my state assembly will be missing me. And then I will have given them another problem that they now have to deal with. There are litigation committee, which doesn't exist, but our 7, volunteers, they will now be busy trying to get Bart out of jail. So I'm not going to do that because we really need to stay focused on outreach and we need to stay, but what we're trying to do is build courage. I think in a word, that's what we're doing with outreach. So, but the difference is, even though you're right, all this is outreach. I agree with that. When we talk to Americans that aren't in government at all, we're trying to educate them, which gives them confidence and courage. And then we're trying to tell them this is what you can do next. But the education component, that's why I've been working on these videos. I don't know if you've seen my videos, Louise, but slowly but surely I put out a lot of information in like 20 or 30-minute videos, because I think everyone should be educating themselves because that's what provides courage. So that's what we're doing with the American state assemblies, but they're not motivated to learn because they're waiting for the Federation to do it for them. And that's been the hardest message, saying, look, yes, the Federation has their job from the top down. And yes, there's some broader, big picture institutional stuff they need to fix. But the American state nationals, you have a really big job here. And we have to convince them first and get that sleeping giant moving. Okay. Meanwhile, when we're talking to sheriffs and attorneys and all these state officers that don't even have a land jurisdiction counterpart, those are the worst, because we're basically saying, we don't need you anymore. Stop talking to us, right? But whenever we have outreach with those guys, it's a different conversation. And I think that your approach is good here. But in my mind, these are two different groups of people. Now, everybody is an American, but in particular, the people that are working as state officers and all this, they hear it differently. It's not just we're telling them this is our American government, this is the whole big picture, this is the common law, but we're also telling them you're not doing your job, you need to change your behavior. Now that's different. Whenever I'm talking to my friends and family about this, they're like, well, Bart, that's all fine and good, but I'll just wait until President Trump tells me. And that's ridiculous. But whenever you talk to a sheriff and he says that, I'm like, oh, that's not good enough. You need to stop right now. But what I'm learning is both men are the same. This guy may be my friend. This guy may be the sheriff. Even though I'm demanding that the sheriff, like that list of demands we're making, and the U.S. Secretary of State, the Oklahoma Secretary of State, even though we're making these demands to them, I think we need to make sure that everybody we talk to about this project has the right expectations, because both groups are going to be like, I've never heard of this before. And we are right. We are correct. We've got the law on our side. But I'm learning that it's, my expectations with the U.S. Secretary of State and the Oklahoma Secretary of State are not the same as my expectations of my friends and family that think I'm a sovereign citizen, right? I've really just provided a lot of context here, so I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, and how to approach different. Yeah, I see your hand, Lavelle. So just a minute. So how to approach your town meetings will be different than how the liaison approach the county sheriff or the militia commander, because those are the people who's going to be approaching them, not your assembly and the assembly as a whole. The assembly is going to be approaching.
We only have 7 volunteers, so we're going to be doing it all.
Well, and then training will come with this. So we are working with seeing how, like Boyd Adams, he's our executive secretary, and he's the one who's
That's right. Boyd Adams is on your.
So we're going to put together some type of training for the liaisons and the county sheriffs, and how they're going to be addressing that side. What we're talking about now is the assembly site and how the town hall meetings or the public meetings are going to run and how you're going to address those people who show up at these meetings.
Mhm.
So do we leave that up to the assemblies on how they want to present the information to the whoever shows up?
Well,
Or do we
here's
need some
my-
training as far as education that you're saying to
Oh,
get them
yeah.
motivated?
So I think training is in education is essential on the front end. Like I think this is the catch-22. In a state assembly, we can't require anyone to sign any affirmations or agreements or take courses. We can't, because it's their prerogative to attend or not attend meetings and participate or not participate. But we can heavily encourage, which I do. I'm saying every American state national should watch these videos, and and I may say in the same breath, you're not required to by law. Okay, you're an American state national. If you want to be at the meetings and tell me what to do because I'm a state citizen, then have at it. But if you want to do your civic duty and be a good American state national, you want to contribute to the strength and the competency of your state assembly, then please get involved and please watch every single one of these videos. So to answer your first question, yeah, I think we should be developing educational materials. I've noticed that a lot of state assemblies are pretty quick to say what they are and are not going to do, which is their prerogative, right? So we're getting a little bit of a backbone. We're like, yeah, we're the state assembly, we're not going to do this, but we are going to do this, and that's good. They're exercising their prerogative. But nonetheless, I think that we should make suggestions to them. I think we should suggest that every state assembly engage in heavy training. I think we should suggest that for sure.
Okay, Lavelle, I saw your hand.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say, they didn't build Rome in a day. So I think that I think that Louise has done a remarkable, unbelievable framework. And we're not going to be able to get into all the nooks and crannies, but I think that she does have a great framework. And from what I've seen, that you've thought about everything. But at the same time, she can't have a conversation on every single thing. And of course, she can't do every single thing. But from what I've seen, Louise has covered everything. Now, the conversation of how, like I say, what state is going to do what, who's going to do what, those are going to be conversations that's going to come within the framework. So I think that, sometimes we do get a little irritated and frustrated because we want it to happen now. And I think that's human nature. But I think that we're at a great place. I do believe that education is very important, and it should be all of our responsibilities, The part about the coordinators, I think that's a great idea as well, to reach out to coordinators at some point. I'm going to be educating my team, just because I kind of got the, what we're doing here, so I'm able to kind of take it back. But this is kind of our lane anyway. Is why haven't we done this? Why haven't we reached out to the, this is a conversation that we have anyway. So I already know we're going to be ready and to be and jumping on board. So I just want to put that out there. Rome isn't built in a day. Great framework that you have, Louise. I mean, you literally have thought about everything. And it's just these conversations we're going to have eventually. But that's just all I wanted to say. I yield.
Thank you, Lavelle. Now, Lavelle and Boyd, I'm wanting some input from you two, because y'all been on both sides. So like Neeti say, you've been on both sides. On how the approach as far as phase 3 down here, as we get more into that more conversation, Lavelle, that you're talking about, we're gonna need to have. We're gonna have to iron out how the warm handshakes need to go with the county sheriffs and things like the governors, how the liaisons need to address them. What you all know on the other side would be more, from that end, how we can talk to them to be most effective in getting through to them. Because like Bart says, that conversation over there, they're going to be viewing it from a different angle. And this conversation over here with the assemblies, they're going to be viewing it from a different angle. So just to let you know, Lavelle, I'm gonna be leaning on you a little bit more on that end, when the phase 3 come in, as we develop some training and stuff for the liaisons and stuff. I'm gonna be asking you some questions on that one, because we do need to be
Absolutely.
effective in that approach. The other things that we're working on to as far as getting participation, one thing we were working on was an outreach PowerPoint that I was working on with someone on Louisiana. Has to be revamped again here now, but we were planning on an outreach PowerPoint to present to go around to all the assemblies to see if we can sit in on one of their meetings, or go to or sit in on an outreach meeting with every assembly, to kind of make a tour around everybody, to let them know about the project and the importance of outreach, and the importance of outreach in the sense that we all come together to do this project, to be more forceful, more effective in getting the recognition and getting the different de facto entities to move in our direction. Is it important that we do this together? 30 plus, I want 30 plus, 30 plus assemblies to get on board, but to get the project up and going and get the approval from the assemblies to do it. Yes, I'm going to have to do outreach to the assemblies to show them the value of the project itself. And that is something that I'm working on, trying to devise how I'm going to do that. I was working on a PowerPoint presentation, outreach presentation that I had someone else working with me who was eager to go around to all the assemblies. So I have to revamp that a little bit. I think I'm still going to do it. It's just going to be, going to have to come off my shoulders now to do that. And then the other thing that we were doing to get more participation from the assemblies is another thing that the PKTF is working on. I know I already mentioned that we were going to put out that pre-launch announcement, but there is another thing that we have that I proposed to them that we have in the back burner we're actually kind of considering, and that is a conference, an online conference that the PKTF will host. I kind of just introduced that to them, so we're kind of just really thinking about that at the beginning stage, but where the PKTF will present it's a whole outline. I'm not even going to talk about all of it in detail because I'm not even sure if we're going to do it or not, but that's another way that we're thinking about presenting the project to the assemblies to get more participation, for them to see the value in the project. So that's what I feel like I have to deliver, is showing the assemblies the value in the project of us coming together as a federation together and doing this, presenting this to them in that sense. Because all assemblies are sovereign nation states. They don't have to do anything that they don't feel is valuable or worth them putting the effort into. So we got to present the value of the project to them. And that is something that I'm going to be working more on actually this month, December.
I like, if I may, Louise, after having all the discussion we've had so far, I like your three-pronged approach of talking to the people, like sending out a lot of notices and information to the people so that they start applying pressure to their local officials, and also all the different offices that we're going to address, and then also sending notices straight to the state of state and the federal level as well. I think that's a good approach on all sides.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments about the list of I like to call them remedies. I know I did call them demands at first, but I like the remedies because I'm getting the public involved. I don't want to make a demand from the massive public. I want it to, in their mind, for them to know that this is the remedy that they should have. So if y'all think of anything else that we can add to this, or the way to word it better, I think the one I sent out to you last week is kind of, I think it's almost worded the same way. I'm not sure.
So I think the traffic issue, I think Anna, I've watched a few the coordinator training calls, and I think she's mentioned that it's really going to have to be fixed on a systemic level, which isn't a conversation for us. Well, I think it's definitely not a conversation for the American State National and the Highway Patrolman on the side of a highway. That's not where the conversation needs to happen.
No.
But a lot of American State Nationals do that because they think that we're further along than we are. And so I've done it myself, right? And so we get there and we realize, oh, things aren't changed as much as I thought they were changed. And so they get a little disenfranchised. So I think it's important to manage that expectation that
Yeah.
that this is something that a state assembly is going to do, but it really is in the Federation's hands. I think the Federation needs to talk with the Trump administration and work it down to the state franchises to tell them
Yeah.
you need to stop doing this. But even though I say that, because Anna has said this is a systemic issue, I think we should do everything we can to get the word out from the bottom side. In theirs, because of course we're not on the bottom side, but in their system of things, they're going to feel the heat, hopefully from above and from below.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now,
So-
all of these are systemic issues. All of them.
That's right.
FRNs is a systemic issue. And
So-
actually the conference, go ahead, Bart.
Well, I was going to say, so when you talk about teeth previously, it could be, I mean, yeah, the people are really applying pressure. That's the way that I think the the de facto state of state will experience it. They'll experience it as public pressure. They won't, I don't think that they will immediately view it as their employers are talking to them, even though that's exactly what's happening. I don't think they'll feel it like that. They'll feel like this is public opinion and they'll feel heat. And then hopefully we'll do it at the same time. Like hopefully the British territorial, because that's the only one left standing now, right? That British territorial will talk down to its rank and file of its state of state enfranchised officers and tell them that's another idea. Here's a good idea, Louise. I don't know how actionable this is, but when you get to a place, it might be good, like that document of remedies, that whenever we get some of this in stone, to give that to Anna and say, Anna, we would like for you to serve this to President Trump and all those. So it's the exact same document. It's not just, wait a minute, I saw this list of remedies. Didn't I hear the US Secretary of State talking about something like this? I don't want them to have to put together two bodies of knowledge and make the connection. It would be more efficient if whatever documents we're going to be sending to the US Secretary of State and all these federal state of state officers, it would be good if the Federation already sent a packet over to their counterpart on the other end of their table in the international land and sea jurisdiction. It would be good if it's the exact same documents coming up from both sides, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, exactly. Look at this chart right here, Bart. So you just said it. Over here on the right-hand side, where I have one fell swoop of remedies. Meeting with President, Commander-in-Chief Trump, and U.S. military. We're meeting with them to go over this one fell swoop of remedies and how they're going to roll them out.
Okay.
So I think this was in the last meeting, strategy session. Well, Trump has, look at session 3 strategy session. Trump has already said, they're trying to put the government back in the hands of the people, and they got Agenda 47 and all these other documents. They're talking about freedoms and all this, the Republican form of government and all this. Well, what I want to happen here on phase 3 with the PKTF Directorate, Chief Continental Marshal, and the Fiduciary, us to call a meeting and call them to the carpet on all these promises and things they didn't put out in the public that they're putting the government back in the hands of the people. Well, the people want to meet with them and tell them what the people want them to do. So, and that would be the same document, like you said, all of these documents will be the same document. So the one fell swoop list of remedies that we want to deliver to Trump and present and say, hey, we want this rolled out. This is what the people want. And then that same document is what the town meetings are going to be presenting to the public and telling them these are the remedies you should have had, but you don't. So you need to put some pressure on your congressman and your senator. So That's the same document. And the Declaration of Land Law for the Federal Reserve Notes and the Declaration of Land Law for the birth registrations, those are the same documents that the liaison and the militia commander is going to be presenting to the county sheriffs and letting them know that this is what we're supposed to be doing for your people, for the American people. So they are the same documents that's going to be used at every level.
But it looks like phase 3 is successively behind phases 1 and 2. Is that correct?
Well, only a number, really. I initially
Oh.
thought of it as the assemblies getting started first and starting the public meetings and everything before
Mhm.
phase 3 happens.
Well, I think
Because-
that, yeah. Go ahead.
Because phase 3, the idea was secure the capital. The whole project was viewed as securing the capital. So phase 1 and 2, the assembly was going to do an international public notice in that capital that had in the county that had the capital in it and the governor in it. So the assembly was going to go first to that capital
Yeah.
and do that meeting and run that campaign. Then the county, then the PKTF liaison was going to visit the governor after that campaign was ran. That's the initial thought was with phase 1, 2, and 3, like that.
Well, I'm trying to, there's two approaches that are in the back of my mind, two ways of going about strategically how to accomplish something. And it's tricky when you're working with someone and you don't, a group of people, and you don't know if they are cooperative or not. Because if they're not cooperative, then you come in, figuratively speaking, you come in with your pistols locked and loaded because you don't know if they're going to resist or if they're going to go along with it. So you're it's like walking into a conversation with an attorney. You're already arguing there is no agreement. You're already arguing. He's ready to fight. You're ready to fight. So you approach it. This is my enemy and I'm going to prove him wrong. Whereas it would be a lot easier if both men were in the mood to negotiate, and then they wouldn't have to argue. They could let their guard down and they could actually have civil conversation. That's, to me, I don't know what we're working with when we work with, I'm sure there are good people within the federal government. I believe that the Trump administration is on the right track, obviously, but I don't know all the people in the middle there. I don't know where they are. I don't know if they're open, if they're suggestive, if they would like to have a meeting with the PKTF or, the capital, that we're supposed to go to in our state. Like, how are they going to take it? My favorite way, if I could have my druthers, my favorite way, and this is assuming that people are cooperative, it would be for the PKTF Directorate Chief Continental Marshal, that meeting with the president, that would happen in parallel, if not maybe like a day before or a week before only, just a week before. But the reason why it would make it a lot easier for all the state assemblies when they start doing their work. They may encounter less resistance. And that's going to be huge because right now, I don't know if other state assemblies are this way, but the majority of American state nationals are still hiding out in their turtle shells. And we're told that we have the law on our side and we're told that we're correct, but there are so many horror stories between you and me. I think 30% of them are just false, but there are a whole lot of stories of people getting arrested and put in jail. And a lot of people that, for me, that's not a badge of honor. Some people wear it like a badge of honor. And of course, if you've earned it, I guess that is a badge of honor. But I have no intention of spending 30 days wasting my time in jail. I have no intention doing that. And a lot of state nationals are not either. So what we're looking for is courage. We're looking for a reason to feel like we can go out and do this and we're not going to get arrested, because that is, and that may not be that may be an illogical fear, but it is powerful. And people, you go out and you do this stuff, just talking about the fact that you don't owe taxes. I haven't paid taxes since 2021, and I'm supremely confident, obviously, that this is the right way. And that I think the IRS is completely defunct anyway at this point. But when you tell that to your friends and family, they're like, whoa, Bart, we don't want you to do anything crazy. We don't want you to get arrested. They're like worried for you. And American state nationals are no different. I mean, they may be correct, they may have corrected their status, but they don't want to turn their lives upside down, and they don't want to be sent on an errand that could turn their lives upside down. And so I'm trying to find ways. I have to educate them as well. That's one of my big roles, but it's also to tell them, hey, it's going to be okay. Have these expectations, go down there and deliver this document to them, and, do what you need to do. But don't worry, it's going to be fine. And also to tell them, and by the way, the PKTF just had a meeting with Trump and his cabinet, or whoever that they need to talk to. They've already done it last week. So, it's almost like hopefully it would be nice if I had my druthers, right? It would be nice if we could tell our state assembly people who are far less educated than we are. And that's not a knock. That's because they don't have the time, or they don't want to. That because a lot of people are smarter than me. They just don't want to read the books. So because of that, they don't have in my opinion, if you don't have the education, you don't have the courage. And so, and actually, we don't want people that have courage and no education. That's not helpful at all, because you get people going off half-cocked and making really bad decisions. So it would be nice if we were able to tell our state assemblymen that PKTF has already had a discussion with the state of state, and they are expecting you. And so then that way, when they go, they know that this is happening on all sides. That's a really confident feeling, rather than on the flip side, if you have the people do it in the very beginning, even though ideologically that's perfect, because this is a government of the people and by the people and for the people. So it should be, the people should be center stage, right? I just think that's very intimidating for a lot of brand new American state nationals they've only been on the land for 6 months, and they don't want any trouble, right? They may know it in their minds and their hearts that Americans own this country, but they're like, yeah, but that guy over there, he's got a badge and a gun. I don't know what he's going to do, So I'm trying to manage those fears. I want to give people courage. And anyway, back to the point. What do you think about PKTF happening maybe slightly before phase 1 and 2? You think there's value in that?
Yeah, actually, my idea I just added the PKTF directorate, this row here. Let me see. I added that as the first phase of phase 3. So what ideally I wanted that to happen first, like you said, if we can get the top to bring down the directives to their own de facto, that makes it much more easier on everybody. So if U.S. military, we meet with them, they bring down the directives to the U.S. Secretary of State and U.S. Attorney General, because at this level here, the diplomatic community, that's where we want your passport office to have in their database American state national.
Yep.
And no more sovereign citizen at that point. We're recognized as American state national. Bring that information down to the governors and the Secretary of States and those sheriffs. That's how I envision that happening, to trickle it on down that way. But to have it to come a week before, maybe. I don't know. That's some timing. I don't know when we're going to be able to get that meeting with Trump, and I don't want to wait.
I hear you. I'm tired of waiting too.
We got 3 more minutes. Anybody else got any more input before we head on out of here? So our next meeting will be December 22nd. December 22nd, same time. Does these Sundays work okay for everybody? Okay.
Yeah, I'm probably rare. I've got a commitment that happens from 6 to 8 every Sunday, but generally 4 o'clock works for me.
Oh, great.
Yeah. 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, I mean.
Okay.
So Richard,
All right. What'd you say, Richard? Rich?
this time on Sundays works good for me. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, everyone. Well, thanks for your input and everything, and I will see you again on the 22nd. We have a think tank meeting on Wednesday, if you all want to come to that. Putting some more pieces together as far as phase 1 and phase 2, and we're starting in phase 4 and 5, getting into that. So if you want to be at that one, you all have a good night.
All right, you too. Thanks.
All right then.
Thank you, Louise.
Bye-bye.
Great job as always.
Yes, great
Thank you,
job.
Lavelle. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Too.
All right. Bye-bye.